You know, the thing is, like, people, I talk to people when I see these hip hop documentaries, whether it be on Netflix or you know, whatever streaming service, and no one ever acknowledges the contributions of the Fat Boys. And I brought this up several years ago, and I said I'm not watching any more of these documentaries that don't acknowledge the Fat Boys, because quite honestly, when hip hop went from being this niche thing to being in the arenas, and you know, of course, there was still no hip hop radio at this time. Like, you got to understand, if Run DMC is one, the Fat Boys are 1A as far as making this an international thing and something that could be done in arenas. Like,
that's
I
big
think
right
people,
there. That's big comment.
people get caught up on the novelty. You know, of course, before they were the Fat Boys, they were the Disco 3. And we forget, like, these kids, they were teenagers. You know, by the time, like, by the time Prince Markie Dee had done, you know, had gone into his solo career, he was only 22, 23. That means all that success they had as the Fat Boys, they were basically teenagers, you know, but a lot of times we don't think of hip hop groups or even R&B groups really as being kids, like, other than maybe New Edition. Like, we always just think of them as already being adults. Even when you think about somebody like Big Daddy Kane wasn't but 18 or 19 when he was putting out the, you know, those classic records. But with the Fat Boys, you know, like I said, I wish they would have gotten more love, not just from, you know, the overall music community. I mean, they got their love because they moved units. Like, they had platinum records when rap records didn't go platinum. You know,
I was about to say, they definitely move units. And
it wasn't just because it was like some novelty disco duck type shit. Like, they were good rappers and crazy performers. I know Questlove posted it. It was the first time they were on Soul Train. And you saw the energy from the crowd when they came out and they did, you know, I think it was the Jailhouse Rack joint. And then when they did the Stick'em joint, like acapella, when, you know, and this is honestly, you know, love to Don Cornelius, rest in peace. But, you know, he wasn't really on board for the hip hop thing when it first started. Really, he wasn't on board for it much at all. But, like, he knew through the power of television
early on
that he had to go,
especially early on.
He had to go ahead and showcase you know, this burgeoning genre. But, you know, with the Fat Boys, man, I mean, they did some suspect stuff towards the end of their career, even though it still worked. Like, when they did the record with it was, you know, and it was what it was with the Beach Boys, and, you know, someone in their management, you know, they got a little heat for that. And then someone in their probably in their management was like, okay, well, we don't want to be seen as sellouts, so we'll do a song with Chubby Checker. It was like, no, that wasn't really what we wanted you to do either. But, you know, like I said, especially the early records, Can You Feel It, or Can You Feel Me, rather, you know, Jailhouse Rap, All You Can Eat, like, these are great records. Larry Smith, once again, the legendary Larry Smith has his imprint on what they did. And honestly, without the Fat Boys, they were the first group to really successfully go multimedia. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we mentioned Larry Smith a lot. Like, we've mentioned him in the past.
But the film Disorderlies, because, you know, Crush Groove, you know, that was a collab. That was, everybody was in that. But then they, you know, someone said, yo, let's give the Fat Boys their own movie. Is it a great movie? No, just like a lot of movies that we love aren't great movies, but they were fun to watch, and we loved them at the time. We still love them now. But, you know, without, you know, Disorderlies making back double its budget, we don't get House Party. You know, so they laid the groundwork for a lot of things that we love and we talk about all the time. You know, I'm like I said,
can you guys see Terry? Sorry to cut you off, bro. I can't see Terry. Can y'all see him?
I'm talking to him.
No, he's
you don't
popping
have
in
to.
and out.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
my fault.
So that's the thing. I just always want to show love to the Fat Boys. Like, it's always been a thing I've talked about, whether it be on my Twitter or any of my social media.
Right.
And I, like I said, I'm not. It's still. And right now, if anybody can hear me who has any influence, I'm not watching your hip hop documentary, especially talking about the early '80s. If you talk about Run DMC, you have to talk about the Fat Boys.
Jay Diff, jump in on Prince Markie Dee, man. Any thoughts? You know, before we get ready to go into our topics.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah,
I got
you.
you.
Fine.
Okay.
What I was gonna say earlier is Jay Moore touched on a few of those topics, or points as well. Fat Boys are an iconic group. They were one of the first rap groups that actually toured internationally. They were one of the first rap groups that were on the movie screen with Crush Groove. And they had Disorderlies. They were in gold records and selling plenty records, and were very popular, were very influential. It's just one of those things, and it's weird too because out of all the few people that have died, hip hop this past few months, they all were featured on the Fresh Fest 84 tour. You had Shabba
Ooh, that's tough.
Shabba
That's
who
tough.
was part of the breakdancing crew. You had Ecstasy from Houdini.
Yep.
You had Prince Markie Dee from the Fat Boys. So that's just a weird connection. Because I mean that was my introduction to hip hop. Be honest with you, I was at that concert when it was at Market Square Arena. My brother and my mom.
Yeah.
So I was actually able to see them perform live, which was I didn't realize it at the time, but that was a part of hip hop history in that tour. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely shout out to Prince Markie Dee and his family. He will be missed, and like Jay Moore said, make sure you pay your homage to that group because they paved the way and they definitely were very influential in the craft of rap.
And also, just real quick,
sure.
shout out to 𝐀𝐿 He is the member of the group of the trio that's still with us. We want to show that brother love. And you know what? And shout out to also Prince Markie Dee being one of the first, Latin cats in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Because when you hear Prince Markie Dee, you hear his influence on somebody like Fat Joe. Like you honestly, you really hear Prince Markie Dee when you listen to Fat Joe. So just shout out to that whole fan base and to all my Puerto Ricans in hip hop. That was definitely a pioneer.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. And we invite you to join our hip hop community on Discord. Access it by going to newoldheads.com/community for talks on hip hop, sports, music, news, and everything else.